Really, at your age? This is one of the comments that I got from my Mother Nature is God video. I made a video called Mother Nature is God, and this Sean Canthoy, he commented on my video, Mother Nature is my God? Really? At your age? Who created nature? Then now you might start believing in evolution. And he had a little laughing emoji. So he wrote, Mother Nature is my God. Really? At your age? Who created nature? Then now you might start believing in evolution, with a little smiley, laughy emoji. Now, at my age, I am 63. I'm 63 years old. And next April 2025, I'm going to be 64. So I don't know, Sean Canthoy, if you're a young person or an old person, but I used to believe in the Adam and Eve story. I used to believe in creation. I was Jehovah's Witness for 30 years. From 1988 to 2018, I was a Jehovah's Witness. I got baptised as Jehovah's Witness in 1996 at the age of 35. But for 30 years, I fully believed the Adam and Eve story because I didn't understand evolution. And I used to believe that evolution taught that chimpanzees turned into humans. And I knew that wasn't correct, but that's what I thought of evolution. And a lot of people don't believe in evolution because they go to the zoo. I've been going to the zoo all my life, and I've never seen a chimpanzee turn into a human. You know, it's not the way it works. Now, all my life, I mean, ever since I was about 12 years old, I believed in Jesus. Ever since I was 9 years old. When I was 9 years old, the very first record I ever bought was $2, and it was in 1970, and I was 9 years old, and it was Jesus Christ Superstar. Jesus Christ Superstar. Who do you say what you are? You know, that record, Jesus Christ Superstar. So I used to pray to Jesus as a 9-year-old. Now my family is agnostic atheist. All my family's agnostic atheist. I was the only religious kid in the family. I was a religious kid. So when I was about 12 years old, 1973, I joined the Catholic Church because the school I went to, I wanted to know about my dead mother and my dead father, who died in the 1960s when I was under the age of 10. I wanted to know about heaven because they were in heaven. I wanted to know all about it. So my grandparents said, yeah, you can join any church you want. So the school I went to, they had two religions. They had Catholic and they had Church of England. And I hated English because I'd always go wrong in spelling tests. I thought, why learn English? I'm never going to go to England. Why learn the language? And I liked the name Catholic, because I like cats. So I chose Catholic. So I started to go to church on Sundays, as I would walk to the church every Sunday as a 12-year-old kid. I would walk to church in 1973, and I would go, and when I was 13 in 1974, which was 50 years ago, I got baptised as a Catholic. And because I got baptised as a Catholic in 1975, I was living with my auntie and uncle who were atheist, agnostic. My auntie and uncle were atheist, agnostic. And because I believed in God, I was like a Catholic, they sent me to Christian Brothers High School. Christian Brothers High School, a Catholic high school, like, at the age of 975, which is 50 years ago, 2025. So I went to so I believed it fully. And at the Catholic school, they taught evolution. They taught evolution. So I used to look at evolution as a 13, 14-year-old, and I believed in evolution when I was 13 and 14 because they taught it at the Catholic school as a scientific fact. And I asked the Christian Brothers about it, and they said that, yes, Adam and Eve story is just a myth, a story, And I said, what about Noah's flood? Noah's flood is just a story. And I said, well, what happens to people who commit suicide? And they said, well, people who commit suicide roast in hell for all eternity. And that disgusted me because my father, when I was 8 years old in 1969, my father committed suicide. My 38-year-old father committed suicide. He was a doctor. He suicided with Nebutal, found him in Parramatta Park with a suicide note under his head to my grandparents. And I found out, not as an 8-year-old that he committed suicide, but they told me as when I was 14, when I was 14, my auntie and uncle said, look, your dad didn't die of a heart attack. He committed suicide. So the Catholic Church taught evolution. They taught that the flood was a myth, Adam and Eve was a myth, and people who commit suicide roast in hell for all eternity. But they didn't know my father had suicided. Yeah. So I used to believe in evolution. And then I stopped believing in evolution when I was 27. When I was 27 years old in 1988, Jehovah's Witnesses knocked on my door about 5 o'clock at night in summer, spring, whatever it was, and I let them in. And I basically became a Jehovah's Witness from then on, even though I didn't get baptised as a JW till 8 years later. So I never understood evolution fully, and scientists don't really fully understand it, but most biology doesn't work without evolution. Now, cell mutations, you probably know about mutations. Cells mutate. Now, it's not this, with evolution, I used to believe it was the survival of the fittest. It's not the survival of the fittest. It's the survival of the most sexually reproductive. The more kids you can have in the animal kingdom, you'll pass on those genes to the next generation. If you have any favourable mutations, you will pass those genes on to the next generation. So it's not survival of the fittest, survival of the most sexually reproductive. Pass on your genes. So any favourable mutations, to give you an example, moths. Moths that stand out will get eaten by birds. They won't get to reproduce. Moths that are camouflaged, they will survive and they will breed. You see, camouflage moths won't get eaten by birds. Moths that aren't camouflaged, that stick out, the birds can see them, they don't get to mate, so their genes die out. It's a bit like that. So there's all different types of mutations, right, that go on in the cell. As these mutations accumulate over millions of years, right? You've got to remember we're dealing with millions of years. These mutations produce different forms of life over millions of years. Now, there never was a time. Now, humans didn't evolve from chimpanzees. We didn't evolve from orangutans. But humans do share 98.8% DNA with chimpanzees. Humans are actually closer to chimpanzees than chimps are to gorillas and orangutans, who only share 95% of the DNA. So we had a common ancestor with the chimps, right? They branched out to chimps, we branched out to humans, right? But we are all primates. Put it this way, it's a bit like a religious duck. A religious duck saying, I'm not a bird. I didn't evolve from birds. I'm a duck. How dare you say I evolved from birds? How dare you say I evolved from birds? I'm a duck. Ducks are birds. Humans evolved from humans. We didn't evolve from chimps or gorillas. We evolved from humans. And humans are apes. We can swing our arm around like an ape. Primates can do this. They can swivel, swivel shoulder, all apes. In Australia, we have the funnel-web spider. Now, the funnel-web spider can bite a cat, a dog, or rabbit, and the cat, dog, rabbit won't die. But if a funnel-web bites a person, if the funnel-web spider bites a person, the person dies. Chimpanzees, gorillas, chimps, orangutans, and humans will die if they're bitten by a funnel-web spider, because primates have something around their nerve endings that's different than the other animals. So funnel-web spiders kill humans and all other apes. And we are an ape. We're a talking ape. We have language, but the chimps and the gorillas have their own kind of language too. They have their language too. All animals have some type of language where they kind of communicate. Whether it be sign language, grunts, growls, birds chirp, that's language. So we are talking apes, and the apes communicate too. Now, with these favourable mutations, they build up over time and they get passed on to the next generation. So if you get your father's fathers, or mothers, go back a million generations, they look different. They look different than humans do. And when you think of it, majority of people kind of do look a bit ape-like, don't we? A lot of people look very, like the most common thing to say, he looks like a monkey. He's got a monkey's face. I got a monkey's face because I am a primate. Most people say they don't look like a turtle or a fish. He looks like a monkey. Yeah, because we're apes. But we didn't evolve from monkeys. We didn't evolve from chimps. We evolved from human beings. Now, a reason why a lot of people don't like evolution, because if evolution is true and the Adam and Eve story is false, that means when Jesus talks, and we know the Noah's flood never happened. We know that never happened. We know for a fact that humans in Australia, there's Mungo Man. Look at the video on Mungo Man, who was found in Lake Mungo in 1968, and Mungo Lady, who was discovered in 1974 at Mungo Lake. They're very ape-like humans. Right? But they were human, but they weren't gorillas. Humans are apes, like ducks are birds. Ducks look different than other birds, but they're all in the bird family. We're in the primate family. Now, 95% of all living things that have ever existed on Earth are extinct now, And with climate change, humans might become extinct if we're not careful. So Sean, Sean Canthy, Thoy, I used to believe in creation. I used to believe in the Bible. I was a Jehovah's Witness, and the only difference between a Jehovah's Witness and a Christian is that Christians believe that Jesus is God Almighty and there's a burning hellfire. That's Christians. And Jehovah's Witnesses just believe that Jesus is God's son and you just get destroyed forever if you're naughty, and you get to live in paradise and see your dead family. So all the different Christian religions argue amongst themselves on who's right, who's wrong. Some Christian religions believe in evolution, some don't. Some Christian religions believe in young earth creationism. Some, like Jehovah's Witnesses, believe in old earth creationism, that the earth's millions of years old. And you say, well, who made Mother Nature? You said, who made Mother Nature? Who created Mother Nature? well, maybe Mother Nature has always existed, and maybe matter has always existed. Maybe matter's always existed. Matter was never created or destroyed. It just changes form. It evolves and changes. So maybe matter was never created and has always existed. Because they say that about God. Who made God? Oh, God's always existed. He's always created. Yeah. Now, my second commenter, I hope I helped you out there, Sean Canthoy. And the other one, the other commenter that I got on my comment is about my sister's suicide. And I made a video the other day about don't let religion break up your family, and talking about my sister's suicide in 1994 at the age of 36. And this commenter said, discern the evidence. Discern the evidence. So discern the evidence. They wrote, being an agnostic will only result in death through Adamic sin. We all have it, and without faith in the ransom are just dust with no future. Now, in the video, I said I'm an agnostic, and I am an agnostic. I don't like saying I'm an atheist. Well, I am, but I like to say agnostic. It doesn't offend people as much, so I say I'm agnostic. And they discern the evidence, wrote, being an agnostic will only result in death through Adamic sin, so Adam's sin. We all have it, and without faith in the ransom, that's Jesus' ransom sacrifice, are just dust with no future. So this person almost sounds like a Jehovah's Witness, because they believe in the ransom sacrifice of Jesus. A ransom is money that you hold when you kidnap someone. Jesus was the ransom paid for Adam's sin. Adam ate the apple, the forbidden fruit. Adam and Eve ate the apple. They inherited death. We all inherited death through them eating a piece of forbidden fruit. And we've all inherited that. That's what most Christians believe. And Jesus died so we may have life, so we don't go to a burning hell, like a lot of Christians believe in a burning hell, or you don't get zapped out of extinction, extinct forever, like Jehovah's Witnesses believe. Now, as I said, I used to believe in the Bible. I know the Bible back to front. Many videos on the Bible. I know my Bible better than a lot of Christians, and I study it and I ponder over it. And I've read every story in the Bible. I know all about the Old Testament and the New Testament. And discern the evidence. Right, you say there's no future for agnostics. If we don't believe in Jesus, basically you're saying if we don't have faith in Jesus' resurrection, we're going to be dead forever. Well, I did believe in Jesus. And as an agnostic, I don't know if there's life after death. I don't know if there's a God. I don't think there's life after death, and I don't think there's a God. So I'm an atheist, you see. And I definitely don't believe in the Christian God. So I do not believe in the Bible at all. The Bible has a lot of truth in it, but it has a lot of, sprinkled with fairy dust, a lot of fairy dust in it. So I don't, in the New Testament, for example, people used to believe that epileptic fits were caused by demon attacks. In the Old Testament, in the book of Deuteronomy, people used to believe that earthquakes were caused by God. Pest-like disease was caused by God. And people losing war. If the Israelites lost a war, it meant God was angry with them and they were sinning because they were worshipping other gods. See, if you read Deuteronomy chapter 28, and God said, I'm going to get your enemies to rape you, to pillage you, to kill you, to take your sons and daughters, to take your food, to take your cows and your horses, because you've turned away from me, because you're worshipping gods of wood and stone. Stop worshipping gods of wood and stone, and I'll fill your storehouses with food, and you'll prosper. So if you worship me, everything will go well. If you don't worship me, you're going to get murdered, raped, pillaged, earthquakes. I'll send the cockroach to eat all your food. I'll get you if you don't worship me. Read Deuteronomy chapter 28. This is an angry God that needs worship. He's very jealous. And if he was so real, why are the other people worshipping gods in stone? Wood and stone and gold, different gods. They're all believed in some type of God back then. Now, also in, I forget what chapter it is in the Bible, but Jesus healed a man who had a deaf and mute spirit. There's no such thing as a deaf and mute spirit. And the Greek god Scalepus gave eyesight to the blind and cured the sick. The Greek god Scalepus. The Egyptian god Osiris rose from the dead and was born of a virgin. And the Roman god Mithras rose from the dead, and followers of Mithras, this is all before Jesus. They'd eat bread and wine and get baptized in Mithras's death or Osiris's death, and they would rise from the dead when they died, if they had faith in that God. So dying and rising gods isn't original to Christianity, and the resurrection of the dead isn't original to Christianity, because the Egyptians believed in the resurrection of the dead, the Romans believed in resurrection of the dead. The Greek god Hermes walked on water, just like Jesus did, but before Jesus. The Greek god Helios had a crown of sunlight. Jesus had a crown of thorn. The Greek god Helios had a crown of sunlight. And the Romans and the Greeks and the Egyptians, they used to borrow each other's gods. And the Persians, the Adam and Eve story. The Zoroastrians had a story of King Akhenaten, and Ahura Mazda and Angamanu, about, like an Adam and Eve story, but before Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve story, the Egyptians had an Adam and Eve story where Pharaoh Akhenaten and Queen Nefertiti used to walk around their garden naked, and they got expelled from the garden. I forgot what they did. They did something wrong. They got expelled from the garden, put out in the wilderness to have a rough life. And that's an Egyptian myth. So it was involving Pharaoh Akhenaten and Queen Nefertiti. And Adam and Eve stole from the Egyptian story. So these are all stories. They're like flood legends. The Epic of Gilgamesh is older than the Noah's flood story. So they all borrowed each other's stories because they didn't understand what life was about. What it boils down to, all religion is death denial. We humans are puzzle-seeking primates. Yes, we are puzzle-seeking primates. We're actually death-denying puzzle-seeking primates. We don't want to die. We're scared of nothingness. Our brain rots away. Our brain becomes worm buffet. Yes, our brain becomes worm buffet. Our eyes become worm buffet. We lose our eyes, our brain pours out into a liquid, stinky mess, and we're decomposing ape meat. And we don't like the idea of that. It scares the hell out of us, and we don't want to become nothing because we're so used to existing. We're so used to being. And the way I look at it, there was a smart man called Mark Twain, and he was born in 1835 and he died in 1910. And he was a famous atheist poet, and he wrote, "I'm not afraid of being dead. I was dead for billions upon billions of years before I was born, and I never suffered the slightest inconvenience from it. So you've already been dead. You've already experienced death for billions upon billions of years before you were born. So we go back into that nothingness that we came from. But I still don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what happens. I think the atheists are the ones that are correct. Sad to say, because I would love to see my dead dad again, my dead sister, my beautiful wife Nicole. If she ever dies, I would love to see her again in the resurrection. It's a beautiful hope. So just become an agnostic and hope. But when we say we know things, when we go telling people you're going to burn in hell because you don't accept Jesus, you're going to become pulverized nothingness because you don't accept the Jehovah's Witness God. You're going to burn in the Muslim hell because you don't believe Muhammad and Allah are the real thing. You're going to get reincarnated as a sea slug because you don't accept the Hindu god Vishnu. You know, all these different religions, all these different gods, we don't know. We don't know there's life after death. We don't know there's some type of God, some kind of force. And the way I look at it, there is some mysterious force running the show. And what it is, nobody knows. Thank you for watching my video.